teachers of Reddit, what's the most trashy NSFW story you heard from your students about their parents? I was very close with my high school math teacher, and I went out for a beer with him after graduating college, and he told me this gem. One of his students in his class fucked another student's mom. To give fake names and make things easier, Jim fucked Stus's mom. My teacher heard it happened at a party at Stus's house after her mother drunkenly came home from a night out. Stusy became super pissed as her parents had recently gotten divorced and she wanted revenge. What did she do? Stusy sought out and ended up fucking Jim's dad, and not much later found out she was pregnant from that encounter, which also split up Jim's family. This was something that every student and teacher knew about the situation. Stusy ended up getting an abortion, and Jim was pissed at her for splitting up his family. They must have each needed a shoulder to cry on, because they started dating not long afterwards. WTF-1. And to top it all off, not too long after his divorce, Jim's dad started dating Stus's mom. WTF-2. My teacher told me that months later, a different teacher in the school saw Jim's dad and Stus's mom out at dinner. She had recognized them from P/T conferences and struck up a conversation about their kids. Apparently, they hadn't talked about their kids at all since they'd been together, and the conversation that ensued was not a pretty one. Once Stus's mom had figured out that the person sitting across from her had been the one to get her daughter pregnant, shit hit the fan. I guess it's hard to realize you're the female equivalent of Eskimo brothers with your daughter to a man that got your daughter pregnant and a man you've been dating for a few months. WTF-3. That's all I got, coach. When I was a senior in high school, we did a little project with kindergartners. Before we started, the teacher asks everyone how their weekend was, and one of the students tells the room about this cool game his uncle took him to where they get chickens to fight each other. 5 minutes later the principal takes him away. That was 10 years ago. I have no clue what happened afterwards. My mother is a teacher and she came home one day and told me a story about how in a kindergarten class they were seeing if a plant would grow better in the sunlight or in the dark. One kid said that the plant in the dark would grow better, and when they asked him why, he said, "My parents grow big plants in the closet." As it turns out, the parents were illegally growing marijuana. Not a teacher, but as a student in the 5th grade, our teacher told us that adults who do drugs can sometimes become so addicted they are not able to pay for their house, and then they lose the house. A classmate raised her hand and said, "That's what happened to my dad." The teacher responded, "Oh Christy honey, that wasn't because he was on drugs, he just had a hard time with the bills." Christy's response, "No, he was on drugs." Several seconds of silence were followed by the continuation of the math lesson. I assigned an assignment where students had to select a piece of music that they thought conveyed mourning or sadness. They then had to write a couple sentences on it explaining how it conveyed that emotion. One of my students misunderstood the assignment and proceeded to write 2 pages about how the song conveys sadness because it reminds them about their drug addict mother who left them and has been in and out of their life because she keeps choosing the drugs over the kids. It was really sad. This kid isn't a great student, and it was sobering to see what is affecting them at home to influence their behavior at school. My cousin, who's a teacher, told me this one. A few years ago she was teaching at a summer school for underprivileged kids to keep them off the streets and out of trouble. One day, one of the younger girls, 7 or 8 years old, was crying, so she naturally went up and asked her what's wrong. "Miss, that boy over there keeps saying my mum's a prostitute. Don't listen to him, he's making it up just to be mean." "No miss, she is a prostitute, but he doesn't have to keep saying it." Needless to say, she was gobsmacked, just like everyone else she tells the story to. My mom was a teacher and a 4th grader came up to her when it was time for parent-teacher meetings. "Kid, I just wanted to tell you that my mom is kind of weird." "My mom, everybody's a little weird. I'm sure she'll be fine." "Kid, she has her nipples pierced and wears a chain between them." And my mom said it was obvious. In grade 3, my son told his teacher one Monday that his dad was doing joints all weekend, and he helped. Of course the teacher asked him to explain himself. You know, doing joints. It was really messy though, and mommy told him I shouldn't help. Teacher continues questioning and finally figured out that my joints were made of wood. I had been doing some woodworking that weekend and we were joining 2 pieces of wood with a biscuit joiner and he helped me with the glue up, which somehow in an 8-year-old's mind became doing joints. Parent-teacher night was pretty hilarious. Slightly off prompt. After an assembly and football game one night there was a student staying after everyone had left. My principal went to talk to him and discovered that his mom had not arrived to pick him up. When they got her on the phone, my principal reports that the mom was overheard yelling at her son, "I told you not to go. This is my night to go to the casino. You can just wait your ass there." My principal and the student report that the mom was clearly intoxicated. My principal ended up taking the student home in their private vehicle around midnight. That student went on to be arrested for breaking and entering throughout the community. The kicker? The student got a taste for B&E when our school renovated the cafeteria and stored all of the non-perishables in a portable. He would break in just to get something to eat because there was no food at home. I believe that this student remains incarcerated at this time. My student's older sister had just had a C-section after having a baby. She's 20. His father hates her and let his dog attack her. She had torn stitches, was kicked out of their house, along with her son, and no place to go right before Christmas. My student spent winter break trying to talk his mom into letting him and his sister move in with her. She said no, because she has a new family. I volunteered at my son's preschool. The first day each kid was asked to say something about themselves. For example, my son said he likes basketball. The next boy said, "My older sister has loose morals." The teacher asks the lad if he is sure. Not only is he sure, but his mom is taking her to see Drive Jones about it. When his mom gets him, she explained that Dr. Jones is a dentist. This boy's sister has loose molars. My wife's is the teacher, but I was there for this event. Basically I was chaperoning a field trip for her class and was there for student drop-off. One of the moms came into the room wearing a sweatsuit with the top unzipped and lingerie under it. Not the ambiguous is it or isn't lingerie, but see-through mesh. I can see her breasts and nipples clearly. Lingerie. Kind of reversed from what you are asking, but I had a teacher who had 4 different last names in 4 years. Each new school year she had a new last name. I had her 3 of the 4 years. I thought the name changes were odd at the time, but didn't fully compute why they happened. 3 years after high school I had just turned 21, and I was at a local bar, and she was singing karaoke, and she was hammered. When she was done singing I yelled "Hell yes Mrs. Shepherd," and she walked over to me and told me she just got married, and her name was now something else, which I don't remember. TL. Doctor, I had a teacher who was married to at least 4 different guys in 7 years. Not a teacher, but I bet my old teacher would place this here. Circa 1993, a classmate in 3rd grade. She was tragically and blatantly neglected by her family and severely behind in school, yet had the biggest heart ever. She smelled terrible, was always filthy, and could barely read. We all knew she had a shit life and still always tried to be decent to her. It was Halloween, and as per usual, all the kids were bringing in candy to hand out, including our not so fortunate classmate, which was a shocker to most of us as we were aware of her family's financial state. So we all finish up with passing out our candy and we are allowed to enjoy some of it, including the milk duds our classmate so graciously shared. And then she proclaimed, "Oh yeah, me and my uncle really lucked out while dumpster diving this week when we found these." I don't remember seeing much of her after that. Fast forward to maybe 3 years later, happened to see the old classmate at the local Halloween parade, wearing a nice, clean, warm coat, looking very happy and very healthy, and she introduced me to her foster family. I was pretty happy for that kid, being a kid myself, cause her parents sucked. I'm a daycare teacher, new kid, 4 years old, talking to me as I'm getting snacks ready. She mentions that she misses her mom. Dad dropped her off, and I hadn't met mom. Me, is mom at work? For yo, no. Me, no. Where is she? For yo casually shrugs, oh, you know, doing drugs. Then a few weeks later she's talking to me again. For yo, I have a sister. She's 5. Me, oh. Does she live with you and dad or with your mom? For yo, she used to live with mom. Then mom called CPS to take her away. I once taught a girl, 9 at the time, who was absent on the Monday and when back on the Tuesday, told me she had been sick from drinking mum's special drinks. After some digging, we discovered her stepdad, a known addict, had tried to commit suicide on the Friday evening, failed, and then had a second lease on life, which gave him the idea to host an impromptu all-night party on the Saturday. Girl and younger sister were apparently as much part of the party as everyone else, and had essentially hoovered up all of the half-finished booze they found, left unattended and got smashed, hence the hangover on the Monday. Bonus, the mother has since left the stepdad, and is now dating her cousin. He sometimes arrives to pick up the children without a shirt on. Buddy of mine is a teacher/coach. He told me this story. He was going to grad school to try to become a principal and would see a student of his at the same university he was at. He told me that this female student of his, once she was in college, told him a story about one of the coaches he was working with. This coach is an old guy in his mid-60s, never married, no kids, and has been coaching at this school for over 20 years. He keeps in good shape as he is a coach and doesn't actually teach anything other than gym/football. When she was 16, she was hooking up with this old coach. Once she went over on a Saturday night and he was watching UFC. He said to give him a minute because he needed to pop some Viagra. They started attempting to have sex, but he couldn't get it up. So he said hold on and walked out. She was waiting on his bed for about 20 minutes before walking out to his living room to find him naked on his recliner, drinking a beer and watching UFC. He said to her, "Oh, you're still here? Yeah, I can't get it up. Thought you figured that out. You can leave now because we ain't fucking tonight." But because he's got tenure and it's a small town that revolves around football, he's protected and untouchable because nobody would ever believe he would do something like that. My buddy has tried reporting it, but it was swept under the rug and nothing was ever done because enough time has passed. Not a teacher, but I'm sure there are teachers out there would tell this story of me. Most of this is a retelling from my mom though, as I don't remember it much. In elementary school, not sure what grade/age, we had dare come in to talk about drugs and alcohol. Now I was a very naive child, my own doing, and after the beating I went to my teacher bawling because I thought my mom was an alcoholic and was driving us to school drunk every day because she would always have a very large closed cup of what she called an adult drink. Said teacher took me to the principal's office and they called in my mom. At this point the school had already alternates authorities. No clue if it was cops or CPS, I just know some sort of authority was there to monitor. My mom comes in and they sit her down and bring up what I told her and said that they needed to open an investigation. My mom just starts hysterically laughing and they all get super pissed off. She finally gets out that it's coffee. I ratted out what I thought was my alcoholic mom for her morning coffee habit. After minor digging they let her go and now it's a funny story my mom tells to embarrass me. Not a teacher, but heard this story from a friend who is. One kid's mom was a hooker and she used to make her son wait outside the house when she had clients over. She came to visit the school one time all high on something that gave her nervous energy and a case of the twitches. She had super colorful long fingernails, tight little top and a short skirt. That being said, another time she offered to volunteer to help out in the class, so she couldn't be all bad. I work at a historical village. We were fixing things while tours were going on one day in a historical hotel. A room had iron bars to block the deck, and a maid's outfit next to the wall. The old bed was chained together, and I was zip tying a pipe to the wall. A kid shouted, "Hey, that almost looks like my mom's special room." He said, "Yeah, the door has bars in front of it. My mom has clothes just like maid's outfit that she always keeps the old bed chained together and always has a zip tie on the dresser." His friend shouted out what he's really saying is he has a sex room in his basement. My story isn't directly about parents, but I can only assume they played a big part. I was working as a parapro in the late enrollment kindergarten class. Aka lots of low-income kids whose parents couldn't be asked to sign their kids up for school on time. There were only about 3 kids who were diagnosed, and I was assigned to help, but I quickly became more of a teacher assistant because I was helping all the kids and I loved it. Formed a great bond with all my students. Well, one day, the teacher takes the class to recess and I stay behind because one little girl is using the in-class bathroom and another little girl was finishing up classwork or something. The girl in the bathroom swings the door open with her shirt up, pants and underwear down, and yells, "Look at me, I'm a stripper," does a little dance and laughs and slams the door shut. My jaw just hits the floor and I look at the other girl who has the same expression as me. After I get them out to recess with the rest of the class, I immediately tell the teacher and she of course pulls both students aside to talk to them. I can't remember what answer she got from the stripper kid, but the other girl just straight up denied seeing anything, as if she was scared she would get in trouble. It was just so shocking to me to see one 5-year-old act like that, and another so deeply instilled with the no snitching mentality. My mum worked in a middle school and there was this mother who would bring her children to school on one of those mobility scooters. That's not trashy obviously, some people need them. She was a big lady, she was known to be on drugs, a bit rough, chatty, rude. Her children misbehaved constantly and were in special programs at the school. One day one of her children said their mum had gotten into a fight with a picky, a slang term for gypsy. The mum actually died the next day. The dad overdosed a year later. This story went from trashy to sad. From what I know, the children are doing alright now though. Had one student that was extremely smart, but she did have problems with that. The mother would regularly sell her daughter's prescription medication rather than giving it to her daughter. Had another parent, when confronted about her child stealing a pair of shoes, flatly stated, "Who wouldn't steal a pair of shoes that were just sitting on the bench with no one watching them?" She just couldn't process that someone might look at the shoes and not take them. I dated a girl who worked at a daycare. She came home all upset one day and told me this story. They'd caught a little boy who had taken off his belt and wrapped it around his arm. When they asked him what he was doing, he started slapping his arm and said he was looking for a good one. He was pantomiming his parents' search for a good vein in which to inject drugs.